Hagerty is the world's largest provider of specialty insurance for enthusiast vehicles and supports keeping car culture alive through youth programs, the Historic Vehicle Association, the RPM Foundation, and more. Hagerty is home to key programs such as the Hagerty Drivers Club, Hagerty Drive Share, Hagerty Valuation Tools, the Hagerty Drivers Club magazine, and much, much more. For more information, visit their website at hagerty.com. PCA Sim Racing is proud to have Hagerty Motorsports as its 2021 title sponsor.
The Nürburgring is often heralded as the ultimate racecourse, but much to the relief of our drivers, we won't be tackling the Nordschleife tonight. Even still, from what we saw on Wednesday, the GP course is a tough one. If they thought they could relax, they'll be sorely mistaken. Let's see who's on their game as we get ready to watch Event 5 of Series 7 of PCA Sim Racing, presented by Hagerty Motorsports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Taylor Burris and Rachel Whiteford are reporting from pit lane. And up in the booth, we have Eric Messer on social media and Ryan Bauer producing, who is using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. As always, the PCA Sim Racing Series is brought to you by Hagerty. Since 1984, Hagerty has been the worldwide leader in collector car insurance. Everything they do is geared towards enabling and enhancing the experience of automotive enthusiasts and making sure that the vehicles we all love and the lifestyles that revolve around them don't just survive, but thrive well into the future. Services include the Hagerty Drivers Club, Drive Share by Hagerty, The Shop, and much, much more to fuel car culture. Hagerty, let's drive together. Now, as we mentioned, we are at the Grand Prix circuit here tonight. So to introduce our audience, why don't we head to our track guide presented by GSRC. Welcome to the Nürburgring. Often overshadowed by its older, bigger brother, the Nordschleife, the Grand Prix course has actually accrued quite a bit of history itself. This modern circuit was built in the early 80s as a replacement for the lesser-known Southern Loop. And while it was updated and extended in 2002, it stayed roughly 3 miles in length throughout its history. However, the addition of the Mercedes Arena brought about a total of 6 different layouts to choose from, with the longest including 16 turns. Though not as fearsome as the Ring, it's technically challenging and carries its own fair share of elevation change. Plus, the types of corners come in a wide variety, ranging from the heavy braking into the sharp hairpin of the first turn, to the swift Schumacher S, which is still not quite flat out in a lot of modern cars. Passing can sometimes come at a premium, and drivers are often forced to get creative if they find themselves stuck behind a competitor. But the difficulty that elicits mistakes means that patience can pay off for those who stay diligent. While Formula One raced here on and off for a few decades, it now mainly hosts GT and touring car racing, along with some lower-tier open-wheel series. In the end, race fans certainly shouldn't overlook the importance of this German circuit. While it may not carry the fame of its counterpart, it holds up well and helps keep this worldwide phenomenon relevant to modern racing. Well, DJ, with a lot of experience between you and me this week calling races here, what are the drivers up against in these GT3 machines?
Well, Joe, they're going to be up against a track that is notoriously difficult to pass at, as you mentioned. There are a couple opportunities to get that job done, though, the best of which really be going down into the Haug hook, that first corner off of the pit straightaway. We've also been able to see some aggressive moves get done down into Dunlop or into the NGK chicane. But from there on out, it tends to be a little bit of follow the leader and trying to press the car in front of you into making a mistake. And there are plenty of opportunities opportunities to make those mistakes around here. We've seen a lot of drivers have trouble through the Schumacher S, as well as going through RTL and Bit, that sort of left-handed extended chicane. The other thing that we've seen a lot of is being a little too over-eager coming through the Coca-Cola curve. You've got to be very, very careful there. The best way to really get a line through there is to take a later apex, a wide entry, and then dive it down. And if you're a trailing car in that position, you're going to want to dive down the middle there because it seems like an opportunity is going to present itself. But the truth is that just blunts your momentum and prevents you from getting an overtake done down into the Haug hook.
Yeah, so that's honestly where we're probably expecting most of those passes to take place into that first corner. It seems to be at least the most popular, but right now, the no passes on track, just qualifying, and it looks like Travis Brody has the provisional pole. We've got many of our drivers on the second flyer, but we do have about 3 of them that still need to set a single time. Looks like Hammond, Grotto, and Neto are among those. Oh, and Glenn Dennis just took the pole away with Nicky Chan about half a second back. That's an impressive distance considering Nicky's been the class of the field in the club class so far, DJ.
Yeah, that is a mega lap, and Nicky Chan, I think, had an error on his second lap, so that's going to be game done. Nicky's going to be starting in no better than P2. We watch Kevin Hammond here as he makes his way through that NGK chicane. I mentioned it's hard to get past on through there. Well, it's a heavy braking zone, but the problem is that it's really only a one-lane road. There you see Hammond, though, getting a good line through Coca-Cola, able to take that quite well. Let's see what this first lap is for the 247. It's going to be good enough for 30th place.
So at least getting himself on the board. Let's see, we've got Lacroix here on the screen. He's already taken his second lap, so he's actually done with qualifying. Seeing if any other drivers coming up are looking to get that second lap in, and unfortunately seems everybody on the circuit has already completed it. So with only about 1:40 left, that means that qualifying is settled. That gives us a chance to check in on our championship, of course. And up at the top of that, as I mentioned, Nicky Chan has seemed to have been quite dominant so far. It's been 3 wins out of 4 events, and that has put some distance between himself and Travis Brody. But Travis, as we mentioned, was looking at least relatively quick here today in the qualifying, and actually put himself into 7th, but he'll have some climbing to do. Glenn Dennis seems positioned to maybe try and take the fight to Nicky. Let's see if that fans out with Lacroix also being occasionally fast. J.R. Gregory down there at 838 points has a decent gap to the next car back, about 28 points down to Ambrosino before things tighten up again to Cliff Kerr. And then you got a big leap down to Mazzarello in 10th position. So as we watch the drivers wrap up this Q session, we're going to head off to a warm-up, but let's head down to Rachel Whiteford, our pit reporter. Rachel, we've had already one of our races this week with the challenge in sport classes. Based on what we saw there, what are we expecting this evening?
Well, from what we've seen, of course, the first race was really our test case challenge class, and it always is for this series. Every other set of drivers does seem to pay attention to what happens in challenge. Now, initially, we had a very rough start. A lot of cars making contact, a lot of mistakes at the beginning. We saw from that race onwards into the sport class, people were a little bit more cautious at the start. Things were a little bit easier there. But what they did learn from that challenge race was that the pit window is better taken on the slightly earlier side. We saw people going in a lot sooner, getting that out of the way, and then running to get clean air. That became the story of this race. Find clean air through your pit cycle, use the pit strategy to get yourself out in the open, and you'll have a far better race here.
I wonder if that strategy will play as big of a part, or will the drivers tighten that part of their game up? We're now into the warm-up session for this race. Everybody getting some last little bit of time to try and get some practice in. It's actually getting a little hot on the track compared to what we saw on Wednesday at about 97 degrees Fahrenheit. But one driver that is taking to that hot track right now is J.R. Gregory. Taylor, I think you've got some more info on him.
Yeah, J.R. Gregory is going to be our spotlight driver for tonight in this class. And one of the interesting facts about J.R. Gregory is not only is he the Challenge Class champion from Series 6, but also he has had the privilege to actually drive at this circuit. So he is going to be one to watch to see how well he can master at this circuit in the virtual world. So keep an eye on J.R. Gregory as he starts in 15th position.
Indeed, as we saw in that graphic, 7th there in the points, and not too far away, but still a fair bit that he will want to make up during today's event. Speaking of having to make up a distance, DJ, we also saw at least a couple drivers get sent down the order early and then have to make passes, which didn't always seem to be the easiest thing. I wonder if trying to stay clean on that first lap is going to be critical, just so you don't wind up in that position.
No, Joe, I think that is going to be absolutely mega around here. You want to be able to just keep it clean, especially in that first corner and sequence of corners. The Howell Cook and the Mercedes Arena is a great place to get an overtake done. It's a great place to defend because of the switchback nature of that part of the track. But when you're starting out in the way we start out in this league, where we start on the green flag, not when the lead driver decides to go, that really means that you can bunch up mightily coming through there. And so drivers have got to be careful, because we have seen what can happen if you get too aggressive. 3-4 wide, it can kind of work into the Howard Hook, but then once you get up into the second part of the Mercedes-Benz Arena, it doesn't end well.
There were definitely some beating and banging through there a couple times, and they pride themselves on clean racing in this series, so I'm sure they might have been cracking down a bit, telling drivers to try and keep it clean here this evening. And especially with these being the more top-tier drivers with the club and pro classes, the pressure is on to put on a good performance here today. Now, Rachel, you talked about the pit strategy as well already, but what about that pit entry? It has proven to be a bit of a tricky one, catching out a few drivers.
Yeah, it's an awkward setup here for the entrance to pit road at the Nürburgring GP track. And that is partly due to design. It was converted from the southern road here at the Nürburgring in the 1980s. And whilst the wing was set up, they did have limited space in terms of what they could actually use here, which has meant the track has been a little bit of a limiting factor in where you can put that. It does slow up drivers quite a bit, but it is definitely an unusual one that gets people caught out constantly, because you're having to come around that whole bend with it to use that entry point, so it's not just diving out of the corner. And yeah, it can also be, if they use a little kick section around the side, even more annoying, because there is actually a version where you have to take another chicane to get down pit road. So the whole thing was basically a space-saving measure, because it's also, if you are using the full combined track and using these pits for your pit stops, you do not want people coming in all the way from the Dottinger, which is the humongous straight that comes to a 90-degree corner right here. You do not want them coming straight into pit road from that.
Certainly not. And thankfully they have those chicanes to kind of slow them up. But it's time to talk about our sponsor for this race, which is Michelin. Michelin is a presenting partner for the club class in 2021, as well as the official tire of IMSA. They also manufacture and sell tires for every type of vehicle, including airplanes, automobiles, bicycles, earth movers, farm equipment, heavy-duty trucks, and motorcycles. Michelin also offers a full range of innovative services and solutions that help make mobility safer, more efficient, and more environmentally friendly. Find more about Michelin at michelinman.com. The warm-up is over, and it's time to take you through our starting grid here today. Glenn Dennis has put it on the pole. Even Nicky Chan was congratulating him on his time, because it's a huge distance between the front row starters, with Chan who is outside. Ambrosino starts third, at Holmes in fourth. You've got John Martin in P5 and Lyle Eddy in at sixth. Then on the next row, it's Travis Brode to the inside, Lacroix to the outside, and Gary Reese starts ninth. Orhun Garalt will be in 10th.
In 11th, it's going to be Will Waldron, followed by Klaus Nielsen, with Ian Simon and Ed Nelson lining up behind them. J.R. Gregory is going to be in 15th, followed by Stephen Kemp, with Bruce Robinson in 17th, Kevin Douglas in 18th. Jeremy Mazzariello will be 19th, and rounding out your top 20, it's Jake Steinbring.
Mario Gonzalez starts in 21st. To his outside, it'll be Cliff Kayer. Then it's Austin Bucket in 23rd, followed by Michael Patterson. Daniel Rubel will be in the quarter-century mark as Chris Szabo starts in 26th. You've got Robert Cottle in 27th and Chris WP 28th. Then it's Dave Stewart 29th and 30th goes to Dave Hammond. They see the last of our field, Tong, Eskridge, and Franco. Last three to put times in. They've got Blanco, Neto, and Grado rounding things out. And the pace car is already pulled in, so Glenn has control of the field. He'll wait for that green flag, just keeping them at a steady pace out of Coca-Cola. Last times it took a bit for the flagman to wave it. Looking for Barney to get on it. And there it is. Green flag is out. But Glenn Dennis was not awake for that. Here comes Nicky Chan up around his outside. It's looking three wide back for fourth place already as they stream down into the Haug hook. And it looks like, oh, our leader's going to get tipped around. And Nicky Chan is able to survive it, but he's passed by Lyle Eddy. Do we have more accidents behind that? It looks like everybody's reasonably safe, but my goodness.
Indeed, Joe, and it looked there like Travis Brody maybe just got into the back of him. Brody got a great start off of the get-go, and that put everything back, but just a little bit too far up into the inside.
And Eddie spun it on his own as well into the second corner. In the arena section, there's the incident at the very start. What a wild beginning to this. Brett Holmes still has our lead after that. And then we've already lost Nicky Chan. Why is Nicky Chan going slow?
I'm not sure, Joe. It may just be a little bit of an issue of cold tires and some contact. Rachel, do you have anything on this?
Trying to get that for you right now. Nicky Chan's had a rough day so far for the start of this one, and it all started out actually towards that first section in the Haug hook. Nicky Chan was actually involved in early contact. In fact, that very first contact that caught out the 20 car and the 020, Chan was actually hit from the side by the 79 car, or very, very close to that. That put them into a difficult situation, and they've just been trying to find their room in the track here. In fact, it wasn't even that much for contact, but they've just been really struggling to get up speed because they've been trying to avoid a lot of people who've been getting into these positions.
You can see he's still kind of limping it around. I wonder if there's some suspension damage on that machine. In the meantime, Brett Holmes will lead the first lap back, and it appears that Travis Brody has copped a black flag in all of that chaos, so he is down onto pit lane. Meanwhile, giving chase, Lacroix up to second for him. He's got a gap of about 1.8 seconds. DJ back to Reese, so we've got a two-car breakaway.
Indeed we do. Lacroix looking a little bit aggressive there through the Haug hook, just trying to see if he can get anything going at all, but not able to do it. Now is the time where he is just going to want to sit back and wait. There's lots of time left to go in this race and lots of time for him to catch up to the back of Brett Holmes.
Out of the arena section, and Robert is continuing to hold tight to the number 6. You can see the distance between themselves and Gary back there as we hop on board now with Ian Simon. A little bit farther back here in 8th as they swing into 4.
And you can see just how much he's having to put in it there. This is not a good area to overtake. Just some fast sweeping corners, but it looked like Ian was able to get a pretty good run there out of the corner. He may have a little bit of a look on Klaus Nielsen. Remember, I said it's potential to get the move into Dunlop. That's a little bit of a block there from Nielsen, perfectly within the rule book. But oh, right around the outside is Simon.
Just didn't have the grip. He gets back in line before Nelson is managed to put his nose in there. They come through the Schumacher S, another spot that seemed to have been a bit of a danger zone as we witnessed on Wednesday, but everybody threw clean that time. In fact, nobody even poking their nose in Michelin despite the very tight racing.
Yeah, I think drivers are a hair gun shy here. And Joe, as compared, we mentioned how much hotter it is out on track right now. As compared to what it was on the Wednesday races, we're dealing with a 96-degree track temperature, but it shows you just how much these tires are made to wear. They are made to keep going for long distances. We often see in IMSA-style races that drivers will double or triple stint these tires, so that means it's going to take them a little while for them to heat up, even with this track conditions as hot as they are.
Ooh, and look at that dive to the inside from Simon once again, threatening Nielsen. And just in front of them, Geralt is going to have to play defense, but he decides not to. Now he moves over a little bit late. Nielsen's still going to get that car to the inside, but backs out by the apex.
Decides to not go for it, but a little bit of a hornet's nest right there in front. That is many cars. Klaus Nielsen trying to get a little bit wide. There we continue to look at this as they come around. Now that second part of Mercedes saw that catch a lot of drivers out. Wow, that's a very defensive line there for Klaus Nielsen. And I think this may be a little bit of a look. There is Glenn Dennis, your pole sitter, all the way back in 14th.
As we come back to Geralt, who is just ahead of that fight that we were looking at, and Simon was not able to make the pass there into Ford. Continuing to plunge down the hill, and as they get ready to break into Dunlop yet again, don't think anybody's close enough this time, and indeed, everybody stays tightly packed in line.
Very close in line, but I'll tell you who almost wasn't close in line there. That was Robert Lacroix. He had a little bit of a look going down into the Schumacher S. I think just trying to get inside the head of Brett Holmes the best he can.
Back with Lacroix in second place, and you mentioned Gary had time to try to catch up. Well, he already has. We're only on lap 3. He's got it down to 0.8 of a second. We had a problem with Chris Duffy. Duffy's off the track in Michelin, and I think this was a self-spin for the 924.
Yeah, and that is not uncommon there. Yes, we are hearing that it is a self-spin as we go back to check out this replay. This is Duffy in the blue Porsche here. Let's watch him as he goes into Michelin. I said that this is a pretty high-speed corner. Carries a little bit too much speed in there. That may have been a little bit over-aggressive trail braking or just an issue where those rear tires didn't want to grip up.
And Lyle Eddy is pulled to a halt for some reason on the entry to Coca-Cola. I'm trying to figure out what... Oh, there was some damage. There was some wrecks happening between Eddy, Szabo, and Steinbrink into the final chicane not long ago. Not sure if we'll be able to pull up the replay on this, but we head over to Bruce Robinson in the meantime, who is in 15th position. Ooh, and chasing a bit of a battle in front of him, Glenn Dennis on a recovery drive. We already talked about this, DJ. This is the exact opposite of what Glenn wanted today.
Yeah, just wanted to stay out of trouble there the best that he can, but Glenn's doing a good job trying to get forward, focusing in ahead of him on Austin Bucket as they make their way down the hill here into Dunlop. It looks like Glenn's going to be a little far back to try to really make a move there through that hairpin, but let's see if he can get a better exit, tighter all the way through the corner. That will work to his advantage. You can go pretty quick with some momentum around the high side, but that is a progressively banked corner. You are a little bit luckier off to get better on the inside. Excuse me, it's non-progressively banked, and you're better to carry speed on the inside line.
Watching from the roof cam of Terrence Tong, but it sounds like Taylor's been eyeing the replays on what happened to Eddie. Taylor, you got something?
Yeah, Lyle Eddy made a couple of contacts. There was an incident happening in front of him where he was able to almost avoid it, but was collected by a car. He was able to try to swerve it a little bit to stay out of racing lane, but overcorrected, sending him back into another car, making severe suspension damage to that number 79 Porsche. He's on pit road right now, trying to get it repaired. Hopefully we'll rejoin the service here pretty soon.
A little bit of a fight between Nielsen and Simon looks like he's regretting that decision already, having to go defensive on Nelson. Just got a slow exit out of Coca-Cola down into the first hairpin. Everybody accordions together. Oh, and it's a chain reaction as multiple cars make nose-to-tail contact.
Bingo, bango, bongo there, Joe. Absolutely what you said. It's a domino effect when you come down into that corner sometimes. Let's check this out on replay. Now, this was all really set up by the fact that Claus Nielsen had a bad run out of NGK. That pushed Ian Simon into the back of him, and then he tried to go low through Coca-Cola. Watch this here. They come on in, and 1, 2, 3, just like bowling pins.
Had to have given at least a little damage to some of them because that was a pretty decent hit. I can also report that Dennis managed to get by Austin Bucket this last lap. He's now into 13th position. Next on his list is Kevin Douglas. We head on to John Martin, who is up to 4th after starting P5 today. Not as big a gains as those two ahead of him, but he's trying to correct that and putting a lot of pressure on Gary.
Putting as much pressure as he can right now. And remember, this is what we talked about, just trying to apply as much pressure as humanly possible to try to get a mistake that's so easy to come by here around the Nürburgring. John just closing on in, but he does have to watch behind him. Aaron Ambrosino, Oregon Gerlach, they are right on his tail as well. So if he makes for a too overly aggressive move, that could spell disaster.
So Ragoon takes it through the chicane. Still set up behind Aaron Ambrosino, who's actually mighty close to John Martin. If he gets a good exit, he could have something, but no, it's not there. Instead, looks like Martin once again approaching Gary Reese in the number 15 as they come down into the Haug hook. Gary not defending until very late. Could he regret that decision? John might be able to cut the over-under. No, he's not able to do it.
Not able to get it done there. You see John missing the apex a little bit on the that first part of the left-hander, closing in behind there as well. Remember, I said if John was too aggressive, he could find himself in a whole world of trouble, and that may be what he is, but he's able to get a good run out of the Mercedes arena. That's going to keep him at bay for now.
And all of this almost looks like Gary's maybe lost a little pace in the process because he's back up to about a second and a half behind. In the meantime, let's head to Rachel. You've got an update on two of our championship contenders, Brody and Chan.
You absolutely have. Brody is in a really difficult situation. Nicky Chan's dropped all the way to 33rd, which is absolutely huge for her. Him, sorry, it's a him, Nicky Chan. Travis Brody also in 32nd. This is going to be big for their points, of course, because these guys were both leading and they've used a drop week already. Nicky Chan especially has got one that was to win, so it's going to be difficult for these guys to really add this one together once you factor in a race of this sort of level of performance. Right now, they're the last two cars on the lead lap, and they're having to work really hard. Both have got cars back up to speed, but it is a very, very long climb.
Yeah, my goodness, they are a huge distance back. I'm looking at my timing sheet now, and it's going to be a while, most likely. Now down through the kink here with Kevin Douglas chasing J.R. Gregory, our spotlighted driver here today. Into the chicane, both of them nice and tidy through there. 33 minutes still left on this race, so probably not quite into the pit window. And hey, how about our leader for a bit? Give some love to Lacroix.
Yeah, Robert just starting to pull that gap a little bit, the best that he can over his rival there. You see just how much wheel he's having to put in to get that car around the Haug hook. It's such a fascinating corner, Joe. The track just breaks away from you. You've really got to be careful. Very easy to lock up the front tires. But Robert there doing a great job to keep everything nice and steady.
And apologies, we actually missed it. I was going to say I could have sworn Lacroix was behind him before, and he was. He made a pass into the Haug hook about a lap and a half ago, maybe 2 laps ago at this point. So he is now ahead of Brett Holmes and trying to lead the way. Ian Simon trying to catch back up, still working on Claus Nielsen in front of him, along with Ragoon Garalt.
Yeah, and this is that little battle that we've been keeping an eye on here, just kind of closing in on those final podium positions, potentially. A lot of drivers here looking very, very patient. It's the kind of race that you and I talked about running earlier here, Joe. Nobody wanting to go too aggressive. Everybody keeping a nice line there coming off of Dunlop.
Yeah, through the Schumacher S once again. You can see how much speed they have to use through there. We come up to John Martin, and as they come out of Warsteiner, just not quite good enough of an exit. We'll catch a flash ahead of them, Taylor, of our second place driver, Brett Holmes. What's the scoop on him?
Well, Brett Holmes has been a long-time competitor. In fact, since Series 1 is when he started his PCA Sim Racing career. And then, of course, he's been racing in the sim world for about 12 years. One of the things, though, that he has taken as a major accomplishment is the few podiums that he has received in the first couple of seasons. But ever since then, he's stayed as a mid-pack driver for the most part. But he has enjoyed lots of fun here, and one of his all-time favorite drivers, well, it goes to the four-time Formula One World Champion, Sebastian Vettel, who he feels like is an all-around great driver and a great person, as we watch him work his way in that second position, hunting for a win here in Germany.
Oh, well, look at this battle on screen. That's Geralt, who was on the attack on Ambrosino, but instead is trying to play defense, but he can't hold back. Klaus Nielsen almost gets into the back of him, and that causes a checkup as well. Ian Simon also having to watch out for the rear of the 32's bumper, and look, it is just cascading down because now Nelson is working on Simon.
Yeah, I thought Nelson was going to try to go for a move there around the outside of Valvoline, but just not really able to get it done. Here's the crucial corner, though. If he can get a good power off of Ford, he doesn't look like he has it. I think Ian was able to get the better drop there, so probably not going to be a move coming down into Dunlop here. A little bit of a wider entry into the corner for Ian. Ooh, check up in the back there from Ed Nelson. Here they go. We got to look in the back, though. This is side by side with Bruce Robinson as they make their way down into Dunlop.
Yeah, Robinson being chased by Gonzalez as he works to try and pass Austin Bucket. Bucket up from 23rd to 14th here. Everybody just taking enough curve over that Schumacher-esque, but a great exit from the 34 machine, and he gets himself out of arm's reach.
Yeah, gets out of arm's reach, but just barely there, Joe. Here comes John Martin. That's that look we've been looking for down to the inside of Gary Reese going into NGK. Not able to do it, but it didn't compromise Martin all that much. He'll be able to keep up the attack.
It's not the first time we've seen attempts that have failed into that chicane today. I've seen a few drivers at least get side by side, but not willing to stick it out once they get to that apex and have to avoid causing an incident. Two drivers behind them just kind of ducking out, taking a little bit of a peek. Not so for Martin. He's not willing to attempt it into the Howell Cook.
No, doesn't want to go for it there quite yet, but still trying to look around and see if he can get anything going. They're going to be single file through Mercedes.
In fact, things settling down finally for a brief moment amongst this group. It's a whole train, essentially. It starts with Ambrosino there in 5th, goes all the way back to Kevin Douglas in P13.
Yeah, it is just an absolute train that is forming here. It looks a little bit like Nielsen is the fly in the ointment, so I think Aaron Ambrosino is going to want to try to get by him the quickest as he can.
Back on board with P7. Geralt just behind the likes of Nielsen, who has recently overtaken him. Ian Simon have been trying to see if he could get something going back here as well in the green, black, and white machine. A little bit too much curve there through that chicane from Simon. Car got a little shaky for him. But we come back up to Lacroix. Ever since making that pass, hasn't been any dramas between himself and Brett Holmes. He's been controlling it, but also hasn't really run away.
No, he hasn't, Joe, and that tells me a little bit that Brett Holmes may be content to just stick back in that P2 position. They've got a gap of about 2 seconds back to Gary Reese, and maybe if I'm Brett Holmes, he'll be within a little bit of an advantage of the draft here. Maybe he's just thinking about saving a few liters of fuel.
Ooh, we had an incident with a 247, and it looks like Cottle involved as well. Heard a little bit of squabbling on the radio. Not sure what that was about. Looks like Grotto also may have been a part of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it looks like Grotto just sort of outbraked himself ever so slightly going down, and that got him turned around. Joe, I believe, though, this is the first driver to make a pit stop. It is within. Whoa, Glenn Dennis on his rise up through the field, making an aggressive move down into the Haug hook.
And that's going to get him ahead of J.R. Gregory. P9 now for Glenn Dennis. Back into the top 10. Remember, this is an important one for Glenn. Came into this round third in the points, and both of his main rivals are mired way down in the order. Even if he can find himself within the top 5, it'll be a huge haul.
Yeah, it will indeed. And with a long championship like this, 8 races and 45-minute races themselves, that's the way you've got to think about this. You just claw forward everywhere you can. Dennis doing exactly what he needs to do here today.
So next on his list, Ed Nelson. So a 996, about 1.7 seconds up the road. Certainly not super close. Looks like we've had some more black flags dished out in the meantime to drivers from some recent incidents. So a few people getting the naughty flag waved at them as we come back to Mario Gonzalez now. Currently sitting in 14th, third in a train of 4 with Bruce Robinson at the front of it.
Yes, indeed. Robinson being able to hold off here Austin Bucket, Mario Gonzalez, but that may not be for too long. Good run. Is there going to be a pass into NGK?
Gonzalez looks to the inside. No defense from Bucket. He feels very confident on the brakes, and he will retain that 13th spot despite Mario actually getting a wheel in momentarily.
Yeah, able to hold on to it there. We jump over, though, to Ed Nelson. We've got another driver in pit lane. Looks like Organ Gerlach coming on in.
It is indeed. So that's one of our higher drivers that are taking an early stop. Rachel, you were talking about this earlier, that this seemed to pay dividends for a few drivers before.
Yeah, this seemed to be the strategy that people wanted to go for because with the field more bunched up, this will put you out in more clean air. And with this track being very aero-dependent for these cars, and they're not having a lot of aero to start with compared to, say, a high downforce car, which this is designed for, Formula One cars, it will benefit you hugely. So good clean air puts you in a good position. You don't have to worry about traffic, you don't have to worry about people trying to get around you, or even getting around that traffic. So it can be a big advantage. And Glenn Dennis is in a prime place to make a big advantage of this right now.
We've been watching a battle there briefly being led by Grotto, Eskridge, Terrence Tong, Stewart Duffy, and Kemp. And we've headed back to that now, watching from Terrence Tong. And we see his onboard, but behind him, another position lost by Chris Duffy. I think that's 2 and just a few corners.
Yeah, Duffy just not having the best run out here. Really working a little bit to try to get around. You can see Tong able to hold out a nice little advantage here, though.
Yep, Tong into 20th position, up 11 spots from where he qualified. Coming out of the Dunlop hairpin, spreading out a little bit in front of them. Eskridge and Grotto able to put some distance between themselves and the other 4 from this group. Oh, and Martin and Reese, did they change positions? I think they did. I think Gary Reese made a major mistake in the final chicane.
Major mistake in the fact that he just completely blew the chicane out right there, Joe. He outbraked himself, and that is finally allowed for John Martin to move his way up into that final podium position. Here we check out the replay. This is Reese up in front, getting ready to get on to the binders for that final chicane. No, excuse me, this is going into Michelin.
Yeah, and you're going to see into the last chicane is where this takes place. Let's give it a moment here. And he's got some pressure from behind. I wonder if he just finally cracked. Is there any contact between them? No siree. He did crack.
Really?
Go ahead.
I was going to say really did there, Joe. Just got into the head of it. But we follow here on our leader. But, Joe, you know, we talked a little bit earlier about Glenn Dennis and trying to make good of a bad day. He's making great of a rough day. He's all the way up into 6th right now.
In fact, we might want a replay of the pass that he did for that, because he got 2 in 1 in a bit of a hairy situation. He went past Nelson and Nielsen, splitting the middle of them in the first corner. That is not often you see it. Let's see if we can pull that one up. Well, we just saw it right there. I think we're going to take another glance at it here. So you're going to see it onto the front stretch. So we're a little early here. No, actually, this is in the arena section, I believe.
Yeah, that's just him getting it done. All right, here we go, Joe. This is what we're talking about. Dennis there in that number 20 machine. Watch this. He sees the opportunity there present itself later on to the brakes, and that's an out brake there from J.R. Gregory. Nielsen then able to get the apex right, slots right back into line, allows for Nelson to go a little bit wider there through the first left-hander, and then sends it down the inside of the second left-hander in the Mercedes arena to move himself up forward. That is why Glenn Dennis is near the top of the timing charts here today and back already up into 6th place.
Wouldn't be shocked if that one went on a highlight reel. So he now has to make up about 2.2 seconds to Ambrosino up next, and then he has made his way into the top 5. He's actually only 9.5 seconds behind Robert Lacroix, our overall leader. I wonder if he's got enough pace that he could maybe try and, dare I say, try and catch him?
Well, I'm looking at the overall lap times here, Joe, and Dennis's best lap is a 58.1. Lacroix's best lap is a 58.5. He might just be able to pull that off.
I think this is doable. This would be a phenomenal result from Dennis, getting taken out of the lead, climbing back, and getting maximum points. Well, not fully maximum, because I don't think that Glenn's going to be able to get the clean driver bonus for today, but still finishing at the top of the field when the checkered flag falls is going to be a great feeling regardless of your incident points. There is Robert on your screen, still stuck at about 0.8 to a second ahead of Brett Holmes, just keeping him honest for the meantime. But the Rat Fink machine getting ready to start lap 14, and we've passed halfway here in this race, so he's going to start thinking about those pit stops soon.
He is indeed. We've also seen a couple of other drivers drop down pit lane. Mario Gonzalez, Chris Sabo, Michael Patterson, Stephen Kemp, Nicky Chan. Drivers opting to come in about there. There you can see one of them just getting out of the way there of the faster cars as they come back out following your leader. I would expect pit stops within the next 5 minutes or so, Joe.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me as well. So out of the arena once again. Looks like Steinbrink, our latest down into pit lane as we come to Kevin Douglas. In the 810, he's chasing Klaus Nielsen just in front of them. Whereas before we had a whole bunch of trains throughout the field, it seemed like it's becoming pairs now. I see a lot of just 2 cars within roughly 3 to 5 tenths of one another, and not many that have more than that around them.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot of close battling, but I do expect that some of that is broken up as a result of a few of these drivers deciding to come down pit lane. We follow here, though, a battle right now. That's Bruce Robinson leading Austin Bucket and Jeremy Mazzariello.
Yep, Robinson there in the 386 and the bright green and orange with Austin Bucket. Again, he's up, but looks like 11 spots so far now. Just keeps gaining position after position. Mazzariello can't seem to get tight enough to that rear bumper to be able to make him concerned, at least right now. Out of Michelin and Warsteiner, now they try to pick up speed. Ooh, and this will do it. Much tighter to the apex. Jeremy is there.
He is indeed. Is he going to have anything here as they come around the kink right now? Looks a little bit to the outside, trying to see if he can get Austin Bucket to go defensive. Bucket not having any of it. They're going to keep a steady line. And we've got some pitters up front, Joe. It looks like Klaus Nielsen and Kevin Douglas deciding to dive down the lane.
Remember, we said Grotto was one of those that took an early stop. Looks like Waldron was in and out at one point, and that was around the same time, but it was a very short stop from what I've seen, so I might be getting incorrect information. We'll have to send Rachel to see what happened with Waldron and if that was a full stop. But in the meantime, Nielsen, Gregory, and Douglas all on the lane, whereas Geralt's just coming around Coca-Cola. Gregory starting to head out. This is going to be close-ish, but how close?
How close indeed. Waiting to see there. Grotto coming in with a full head of steam. He's going to be close there with Douglas. Does he have it? Yes, he does, coming through the first corner.
Douglas pinched himself way down to the apex, and that seems to have cost him as Robert Cottle also goes by, but Robert has not taken his stop yet. So pass for position, but on differing strategies.
Yes, indeed. So we'll expect to see him in here shortly. Keeping an eye on this battle, though, as that does look a little bit like we are having a full attack mode here from Logan Grotto, trying to get something done going down into Valvoline. Heavier braking now down into Ford. Let's see if he can get the run down here, maybe set something up going into the Dunlop hairpin. Doesn't look like it.
Now, just too far back at this stage. But this means that Will Waldron is now our highest pitter if we are to believe he has taken a successful stop. We come to Glenn Dennis, though, who, well, I was going to say caught up to Ambrosino, but he's taking advantage of the chance to maybe pit stop and leapfrog a few drivers.
Indeed he has, and the leaders are also coming down pit lane in the form of Robert LaCroix and Brett Holmes, Gary Reese as well. John Martin and Aaron Ambrosino, though, opting to stay out.
So those are the only two I'm seeing other than Bucket, Mazzariello. Eskridge and Tong still need to come to pit lane, and they are not going to do it this lap. But Tong will. Looks like Eskridge decides to pit in. Stewart is also in. Got to wait for Cottle to enter, and he is not going to. So about 5 more cars to go before the pit sequence is done.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Though I can say that it looked like that pit stop between Lacroix and Holmes allowed them to draw a little bit closer up. Brett Holmes able to get a little bit closer behind them.
All right, so with Lacroix done, nothing changing between himself and Holmes, who we ride on board with right now. They come out in 5th and 6th position, but they should re-inherit the lead unless something crazy happens over the next lap. And Reese has definitely lost touch with him. It is now up to 4.1 seconds between himself and what should be the effective leaders when we're through with the cycle.
Indeed, it should. It's going to be interesting to see, especially where Glenn Dennis is able to cycle himself back out there. But they are working their way around here, as we said, just waiting on those last 5 or 6 drivers to come on into pit lane here at this point. Everybody else has come down.
And unfortunate news for fans of Chan and Brody. Chan's in 22nd. Brody's 24th. They might get 1 or 2 spots from these last couple pit stops, but that is it. They have not been able to really charge their way forward like you would have expected. Such is the talent in this field. Ambrosino's in. Martin is in. Looks like Bucket, Mazzariello, and just need to wait now. Eskridge and Cottle to come by pit entry. So there's the last of our front runners. Here is Gregory on your screen, fighting with Nelson down into the chicane. A little bit of a missed apex there for the 996. And he's actually heading into pit lane, but he's already had his pit stop. Is this a penalty?
I'm not entirely sure, Joe. That's very, very strange there out of him, especially considering he was wrapped up in that battle.
Well, with the last of our pitters now on the lane, that means it's time to bring you the Midway Race Report, brought to you by Michelin. Michelin is the presenting partner for the club class in 2021, as well as the official tire of IMSA. They also manufacture and sell tires for every type of vehicle, including airplanes, automobiles, bicycles, earth movers, farm equipment, heavy-duty trucks, and motorcycles. And Michelin also offers a range of innovative services and solutions that help make mobility safer, more efficient, and more environmentally friendly. Find more about Michelin at michelinman.com. Rachel?
Thank you very much. Well, here we go with our midway race report. And first up, it is Robert Lacroix there in the 64 machine from the Rennsport region in zone number 1. Lacroix started out today in 8th. He's currently running in first with how the sequence is going so far, which has been a pretty good up for him. Second place is going to be Brett Holmes in a 6 car from Las Vegas region of zone number 8. Brett started in 4th, so that's a gain of 2 for him so far. Third is John Martin, the Upper Canada region driver from zone 1, started 5th, a gain of 2 for him as well. Definitely getting things going here as he's definitely benefited from early turmoil. 4th place is going to be Gary Reese from the Peach State region there in the Vegemite car. Some like him, some just don't. I guess that's the Vegemite thing. Zone number 3 there, the 15 car so far is up from 9th, so gain of 5. 5th is Glenn Dennis, who is right now the highest running of our points leaders with his 2 competitors right down at the bottom. Potomac region driver with the 20 car is down from 1st, but he's currently running in 8th, or 5th, sorry. Will Waldron is in 6th place, the Hudson Champlain region driver from zone 1. In that 21 machine, Waldron started 11th. He is up 5 places so far, so getting a great run today. 7th place is JR Gregory, the Oregon region driver in the 280 machine, is from zone number 6. JR Gregory started 15th, so he's up 8 places so far, and we can tell you he got a good stop earlier, so this is a legitimate position. 8th is Klaus Nielsen, the Lone Star region driver from zone 5 there in the 04. Nielsen started 12th, gains of 4 for him today. 9th is Ogren Gerlach from the Rally Sport region. The number 32 car of zone 4 is up from 10th place to 9th, so gain of 1 today so far, but keeping it clean. 10th place is going to be Kevin Douglas from the Horizon Delta region of zone 2. The 810 car has been moving well at the moment, up 8 places from 18th on the grid. 11th place is Bruce Robinson, started 17th today, up 6 spots. The Northern Ohio region driver there. You get to see the onboard for his there with the camera. Great run for him so far. Those triple screens giving him lots of view. 12th place is going to be Mario Gonzalez from the Hill Country region of zone 5. Gonzalez up from 21st to 12th. That's 9 spots gained today for the 777. From 19th to 13th, it's Jeremy Masriello in the 25 car, the North Country region driver of zone 1, putting on some good speed so far today. Austin Bucket in that 34 car from the Alpine Mountain region of zone 9 is in 14th. Austin started 23rd, so up 9 spots for him as well. Battling there, as you can see, with Gonzalez. Steinbrink is in the 46 machine from the Ohio Valley region, just trailing this fight here from zone number 4. Steinbrink is up from 20th, so gains of 5. Ed Nelson will be up next for us in the 996, the Pacific Northwest region driver of zone 6. Started in 14th, so he's down 2 places so far today. Taylor?
In the 17th position, you will find Michael Patterson in car number 29. There you see with his onboard camera from the Longhorn region. Started in 24th in the Matrix Motorsports purple machine, looking to see if he can make some more up before the race is over. To go further back, we go to our front row starter, Nikki Chan, involved in an early incident, has fallen all the way back to 35th, but has recovered to a 18th finishing position, looking like right now he was going to try to gain a few more spots before it's all said and done. 19th, starting 32nd, is Ken Eskridge in his beautiful red and white Porsche. The Rocket Porsche trying to see if he can work his way through from the Hardy-Dixie region as he had started in 32nd. Rounding out your top 20 in the 87 is Ian Simon from the Whiskey Bay region. Of course, started 13th, has lost 7 positions. Not the way he wants to try to cap off this run here in the Q Cup Racing Porsche. 21st is Robert Cottle from the Intermountain region, the WWZ car, working his way through in that red and white Porsche after starting in 27th, so a 6-spot gain for the 89 machine. Travis Brody suffered from some penalties in the early stages, fell all the way back outside the top 20, now running in 7th position. The Palmetto region driver is now trying to see if he can recover after starting in 7th. The 388 of Terrence Tong is sitting in 23rd. There you see his onboard camera from the Upper Canada region. Started in 31st now as he's running in 23rd. A great drive for him so far. 24th position is Dave Stewart in the Pfaff Motorsports colors. The Upper Canada region driver looking to see if he can gain a few more spots after gaining 5 here tonight. He started in 16th. He's fallen back to 25th. Stephen Kemp with the MPI. There you see, right there, working his way through the circuit with the VR headset. A very beautiful setup he has, the Nordstern region driver, looking to see if he can gain a few more spots before this race is over. 26 is Kevin Hammond from the Gold Coast region. Started in 30th, a gain of 4 in that red, white, and blue Porsche. 27th is Richard Franco in car 173, gaining a couple of spots as well after starting in 33rd. Potomac region driver having a good run so far. Lyle Eddy, he started in 6th position. The Jägermeister Porsche, though, struggled with some issues early in the going, has fallen back and has not recovered at all in 29th. Pacific Northwest driver looking for an opportunity to try and gain a few spots. And now we go to our first car, 1 lap down. Aaron Ambrosino, who sits now in the 29th position, the Hudson Champlain driver, not having the best of nights here at the Nürburgring. Paul Nato rounds out your top 30 from the Upper Canada region, also 1 lap down. He started, of course, in the 34th position, so a 3-spot gain for him. Logan Grotto sits in the 31st position. The Golden Gate region driver is looking forward to seeing what he can do in the PCA Sim Racing Series. Rest of the field goes as follows. Chris Sasbo is in 32nd, Chris Duffy in 33rd, and Daniel Rubel rounds out your 34-car field.
This concludes tonight's Midway Race Report, brought to you by Michelin. Thank you to Michelin for sponsoring this class, and big thanks to Rachel and Taylor for walking us through. Now, some interesting developments while we were away. John Martin passed Brett Holmes for 2nd place. Glenn Dennis passed Gary Reese for 4th place. And both Glenn and John are running faster laps than Robert Lacroix. It's all literally coming together here at the very end with only 3.5 minutes left.
Yeah, it is indeed, Joe. Glenn Dennis, though, is about 3.5 seconds back of Brett Holmes, so I don't think he's going to be able to complete the Ferry Book drive up to the podium. But we look out the back here of Robert Lacroix. He's got about a 1.3 second gap to John Martin. Martin's been looking a little bit faster, though, on these last couple of laps, so we could be in for a tight fight to the line.
It sounds like we got a little bit more info on John Martin. Taylor, what's up? See if we can hit Taylor's headset to get working again. Taylor, do you have a copy?
Well, one of the things that we can notice about with John Martin is, of course, he's originally from Emu Heights, Australia, in the foothills of the Blue Mountains. He's been on the sim racing for about 1.5 years and started in Series 6, so a great drive after just doing 1 season with the PCA. One of the things that he loves to do with the PCA is the track days and the soon wheel-to-wheel events that are all across America with him. He's looking forward to seeing what he can do with the PCA in the real-world events in the coming weeks.
And as our leaders have just crossed the line now with 2:20 some to go, we've got 2 laps then. Oh, and has something happened to Klaus Nielsen? I see him off the side of the road.
It was him and Oregon Gerlach. Joe, they got into a real bad kerfluffle coming through the NGK chicane. We watch it here. it was relatively calm and clear, and then on the exit of the chicane is when we got into a little bumping and banging, single file through there. And there you can see just offline there for Nielsen. Bing, bang, boom, there it is. And I believe that Gerloff has hit an incident limit and is just now serving a drive-through penalty.
Oof, insult to injury right at the tail end of the race. Well, this will promote a few drivers up some spots, which will make their day a little bit happier. Mario Gonzalez right now within the top 10. He's roughly 7/10 behind Bruce Robinson. They're in 9th place, so you can see ahead as we jump back now into the Mercedes arena. This is Ken Eskridge and the red and white number 30.
Yeah, exactly. Ken trying to do the best that he can to keep his weight going up through the field right now. Eskridge having a pretty good day, as it were.
A big accident between Bucket and Nelson just now down towards Dunlop. I think Bucket had an incident and then had a sloppy restart, or rejoin rather.
I'm taking a look at it right now, Joe. Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
It was a pretty decent hit. It was at a high-speed part of the track. Didn't sound like Nelson was all that happy about it either. As we're watching from onboard Travis Brody right now, currently on live action, and white flag just flew for Robert Lacroix, still at about 1.5 seconds ahead of Martin. He must have seen Martin starting to gain and has responded. Has not lost any time since. And like you predicted, Glenn Dennis may have had speed, but not enough to catch Brett Holmes.
Yeah, he's been able to hold that back there, gaining in about a second on that last lap. It's down to 2.7 as it were. But here is Robert Lacroix as he works his way out of that Mercedes arena for the last time here today. Martin is closing a little bit. He's got it down under a second.
This could get interesting. Is Lacroix maybe a little shy on fuel? He had a pretty decent stop. In fact, it was a little longer than John Martin's, so I wouldn't expect him to be shy. And the 128, as fast as he's been, now has to try and overtake, though, if he can at least get closer to the bumper, that is. They come up to the Schumacher S. One of the last real good passing spots is Michelin, and then into the NGK chicane. Doesn't look like Michelin's on the cards. Martin way too far behind. He's going to have one hell of an exit out of Warsteiner to get himself in position.
Yeah, and I'm listening on board with Robert Lacroix right now. It doesn't sound like he's lifting and coasting, so that car is just pushing as hard as he can. I think he may have just had a little bit of a scruffy lap. Here they go into NGK. It's down to 0.6 of a second. That is too far back, I think, unless John Martin wants to be hyper-aggressive.
And no, he is just going to have to settle for this second place. Robert Lacroix found himself inheriting the lead from an 8th place start, but he made good on it in spite of others around him having better speed. Robert is your winner here in Germany.
A great run from Lacroix, just taking advantage of others' misfortune. Looks like Brett Holmes is going to be able to come home in P3, with Glenn Dennis finishing an almost fairy tale recovery drive to come home P4.
Still, you got to give him credit to manage to come back as high as he did. As we see Patterson back in 14th, he's trying to chase Geralt. I suspect Geralt may be trying to distance himself, since he is on his own little recovery after a penalty not long ago. And looks like Patterson's got a friend to help him along, but I'm not sure that that's going to be quite enough. And indeed, Patterson will have to settle for 14th, but barely ahead of Ian Simon as well, who follows him home less than a second behind.
Yeah, less than a second there. Oh, we're hearing Mario Gonzalez running out of fuel right now. So that's going to be a little bit of a problem, but Travis Brody not going to be able to get up past anybody else here at this point.
And impressively, 26 cars are on the lead lap here today. Oh, and Bucket coming down into pit lane. Wonder if that's a penalty for the 24. So he's going to fall down a position or two here right at the finish. And we are going to go through our results now that pretty much every driver has crossed the line. Robert Lacroix takes a victory as John Martin is just half a second behind him at the line. A little bit better over the course of that race, and he may have been able to fight for that win. Brett Holmes rounds out the podium with, as we mentioned already, Glenn Dennis making an incredible run back to the front after getting tipped in the very first corner. Still got to be frustrating knowing that he started on the pole by a huge margin. Gary Reese was 5th as Will Waldron was P6, and you've got J.R. Gregory, our spotlighted driver, going from 15th to 7th, and it's 18th to 8th for Kevin Douglas. Nice gain of 10. Bruce Robinson was P9, and Mario Gonzalez finished 10th.
Coming home in 11th, it was Jerry Mazzarello with Nicky Chan on that recovery drive as well to come home in 12th. Oregon Gerlap was 13th, followed by Michael Patterson with Ian Simon in 15th and Jake Steinbrink in 16th. Ken Eskridge was in 17th, followed by Robert Cottle with Klaus Nelson in 20th and Travis Brody. Klaus Nelson in 19th and Travis Brody in 20th.
Almost got him out. 21st went to Stephen Kemp. How about Terrence Tong, 31st to 22nd. Stewart finished P23, and Hammond, who had a bit of a hectic day, finished P24. Then you've got Franco in 25th, and Bucket, last driver on the lead lap, in 26, getting a penalty right at the end. Ambrosino was 27th. Neto was 28th, and Grado 29th. From there, drivers with some big problems towards the end. Ed Nelson involved in that accident with Bucket in 30th. Eddie in 31st, lap down, and your DNFs behind them from 32nd on to the finish. And I think we have our winner ready to talk to us, Robert Lacroix. Rob, we talked to the other drivers on Wednesday night about the beginning and how we kind of expected a little bit of chaos into the first corner. Did you see those incidents coming, and had you prepared yourself to try and take evasive action to get a few spots?
I decided the outside was going to be safe, and just headed there, frankly. I was already on the outside, so... yeah, that seemed to be the safe space. I didn't expect anything to go on at the front. I was when I came out of that in P2, I was surprised, and just I needed to focus after that.
And you focused extremely well. You got the lead away, and towards the end, you were feeling a little bit of pressure, it seemed, because we noticed that Martin was closing. Were you getting nervous at all for that, or did you have it all under control?
I did not have it. This is not my best track. I did not have it over. Like, I had to do 45 minutes of quali laps for me. So it was, I knew that like 10 more minutes and I was losing the lead.
Wow. Well, that makes it all the more impressive that you had to push that hard, because you brought that thing home in style. Speaking of style, every time we see your onboard, we can't help but be distracted by the drum set back there. You think you'd be willing to give us a demonstration, or a little gun shy right now?
Not at the moment, and that's actually my son's. What you don't see is the guitars next to that. I'm more of the guitar type myself, but and my 14-year-old is the drummer.
Well, you got a family band forming there. Congratulations on the win. Is there anybody you'd like to thank?
Yep. Again, podium. You guys do a great job with this stuff, and it's so much fun to participate in. The whole PCA crew, and Zone 1, very helpful with all their all the help we get from the pros there. It's awesome.
Great stuff there from Robert Lacroix, who certainly seems happy and relieved to have finally gotten that win done. In the meantime, DJ has caught up with John Martin, who maybe had a shot, it sounds like, if he was just a little quicker.
I did indeed. And John, I gotta ask you, you were closing in on those last stages of the race. How attainable was it to get close to Robert there?
Yeah, I don't know. He's pretty bloody quick, but yeah, I made a mistake through the Schumacher on the second last lap, and I think that was my chance just there. But it was really fun battling with him and Brett up front.
Well, obviously we've faced a whole plethora of tracks here this season. Seems like you like the sort of Formula One modern style tracks a little bit more. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think it suits my style better, and I've always had a soft spot for the Nürburgring in general and the GP track in particular. I really enjoy driving here, and it took me a while to get a handle on this track with this particular car, but yeah, I had a good week training. My UCR buddies were really good looking at VRS traces and pointing out spots to improve. So yeah, I love this track.
Well, we loved seeing you out there. Anybody you'd like to thank for this second place run here today?
Yeah, well, firstly, I'd like to thank you guys because I get the feeling that you said nice things about me during the broadcast. I'm crossing my fingers. And I'd also like to thank my fellow UCR driver, not him himself, but Terrence Tong's hot tub, because he's just invited us all to a hot tub party in a few weeks. And so that was what I was driving for tonight.
Well, all right, driving for some good incentive there. John, I love it. That was your second place finisher here tonight, John Martin. Joe?
Thanks, mate.
Indeed, and we won't tell John what you said about his mother earlier on. But in the meantime, it looks like Rachel has caught up with Brett Holmes, who finished third.
Certainly have. Brett, a fantastic drive today for you. Third place today was a big one. Not exactly a lot of places gained, but you held your own at the front in a field that really seemed incredibly fluid in the top 10. How was it?
Surprising, to be honest. So happy to be on the podium at all. The first incident in the first corner was first couple of corners were very interesting. So took advantage and just drove as hard as I could. But like you said, the guys up front were super fast today and just had a little bit more than I did, but super happy to be on the podium.
Certainly a fantastic drive. Who makes it happen for you?
Me personally, myself, out of Region 8 in Las Vegas, and just enjoying the drive and enjoying the competition here with the PCA Sim Racing.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Brett Holmes coming home today in third.
Thank you very much.
That's going to round up our interviews. Before we go, though, we're extolling the impressiveness of Robert Lacroix's drive under pressure. He also did that with 0 incidents throughout the entire race. So, man, a magnificent drive from that 64. But we are going to take off, but we're not leaving. We have more racing to come. It is the PCA Pro class here in just a moment at the Nürburgring. So this is the big boys here in just a moment. Make sure to stick around.
Hagerty is the world's largest provider of specialty insurance for enthusiast vehicles and supports keeping car culture alive through youth programs, the Historic Vehicle Association, the RPM Foundation, and more. Hagerty is home to key programs such as the Hagerty Drivers Club, Hagerty Drive Share, Hagerty Valuation Tools, the Hagerty Drivers Club magazine, and much, much more. For more information, visit their website at hagerty.com. PCA Sim Racing is proud to have Hagerty Motorsports as its 2021 title sponsor.
Welcome back to the Nürburgring. We've watched the challenge class, the sport class, the club class, and now it's on to the pro class. It is the fastest of the fast here, and this is where it's going to get the most intense out on track. But it's also been intense in the points, because if we take a look at our championship so far, Justin Sang is leading without a win by only 4 points, over a tie for second place with Leif Peterson and Christopher Pies back there. In fact, Leif and Christopher also still looking for their first victory this season. You've got Rafael Amorim as well, first one to have taken a win so far in our group. Only 8 points back from the lead. And from there, we finally have a bit of a drop. Kostanak in fifth at 892. You've got a nice little fight down between 7th and 8th, between Dyer and Craig, before you get to Braun and Robert Rose rounding out your top 10 there in the championship points. And so it looks at least a little bit cleaner to me, DJ, in that race compared to what we witnessed in the first two of our event this week. But I will say that first corner, it seems to be decisive.
Yeah, it is decisive and divisive, Joe, as we have seen so many people getting into incidents through that corner. So people are going to have to watch out for that here today in this pro class. Now, the one thing that I think we will see in the pros here today, as opposed to some of the other series, is we may see a little bit more patience. Drivers here much more familiar with these cars and this track. They know how hard it is to pass, and they are going to be less likely to send an absolute dive bomb up the middle on somebody.
Well, it's time to talk to you about our sponsor for the pro class, which is Porsche. Porsche is more than a sports car. It's a way of life for all of us, and we appreciate their support of PCA Sim Racing as the pro class sponsor. With the recent sub-7-minute lap at the Nürburgring in the GT3 and the arrival of the all-new 992 GT3 Cup car to the U.S., Porsche's dedication to motorsports is stronger than ever. Find more about Porsche at Porsche.com. So let's head to our starting results for today's race. And Leif Peterson has put it on the pole. Can he finally get that win? Rafael Amorim going to try to deny him from the outside, as Chris Braun will start from third. Justin Sang, our points leader, will begin from P4. Bandiapier will start from fifth, with Rudzitas in sixth, Kostanak in seventh, and Leno in eighth. Dyer will be P9, and Rose rounds out your top 10.
Starting off in 11th, it's going to be Robert Campbell, followed by Gabrielle Albano, with Christopher Stiles and David Craig in 14th. Joe Stiefels, 15th, followed by Rick Reisenberg, with Jacob Schum in 17th and Joe Sinclair in 18th. Julian Velez will be 19th, and rounding out your top 20, it's Alberto Fonseca.
Christian Rava starts 21st, with Dewey Kang in 22nd, with Charles Yao being the only of the 23 that failed to set a time here in qualifying. A little bit of a smaller pack in the pros, but no less incredible this racing that we're going to witness. And they're already lined up on the grid. Before we get to that green flag, real quick, let's hop in with Taylor, who has our spotlight for today.
Well, our driver spotlight for the pro class is Dave Craig, starting in 14th position in that 996 Porsche. Tonight's theme for our spotlight, as well as for this entire week, is drivers who had the privilege of racing at the Nürburgring. And Dave Craig gets the award for the most time to be at the Nürburgring. He's driven around the circuit 3 different times, so a big experience load that he's going to be carrying when coming out here to race tonight. Let's see how he is able to accomplish it. J.R. Gregory started in the same spot as him. He got a top 10 finish. Let's see what he can do here tonight.
And outside of Coca-Cola, he's waiting for the green flag. Leif Peterson with control of the fields. Giving it a little bit of a wait here, and the green is now out. Peterson with a decent start over the Brumos Porsche of Amorim. Behind him, looks like Braun with a decent start, could try and challenge down into the Haug hook as they all break into the corner, almost making contact with one another on the inside line, but they stay clean behind, not seeing any incidents.
We are through the Haug hook for the first time, nice and clean, Joe, and we get ready to go racing here as we continue on. Ooh, still 3 wide through the second sectors of the Mercedes Arena. Lots of drivers just trying to find any opportunity that they can.
Ooh, and Brown had a bad exit. Looks like Sang's going to try and take advantage. Our points leader not willing to risk it. Oh, but he's going to get the spot anyways. A spin for Chris Brown, and on the first lap he sees the entire field stream by.
Oh, that's the last thing he wanted to see have happen, is I think there was another car off into the distance there. We jump back with Dave Craig, though, as he's trying to work his way forward.
That was Bandiapie, who unfortunately also lost it coming out of Ford. And we see them now head through the Dunlop hairpin. So a few drivers having struggles, but there is so low incidents for our field thus far. We come to Routsidas in the 4th position, who is tucked up behind Sang.
Indeed, he's working that line the best he can, trying to put a lot of pressure on Justin Sang the best that he can here. Oh, big one ride there in front.
Had an accident for Alberto Fonseca. The 44 hit the wall in a big way through the Schumacher S. He seems to have already taken a tow. So up into the final chicane. Peterson ahead by a 1.5 seconds, but Amorim leads a train from P2 on down. Sang, Routsidas, Kostanek, all behind him.
Indeed, there you see Justin Sang. There's that glance in the mirror that he was hoping for, just trying to find something the best that he can. They continue to work their way down the main straightaway here. Nobody looking like they're ducking their way out, trying to take a too big of a move.
Down into the Haug hook once again. Seeing a lot of single file amongst our drivers. Very few moves into this corner on the second lap. They know that there could be opportunities later on, not willing to risk it. As we come back to Routsidas' roof cam once again. Oh, we've had a problem with Campbell. Rodney Campbell is off in the Mercedes Arena.
Oh, yes, he is, and that looks like he may have made contact with the inside wall as he gets around. I'm also hearing Sinclair may be the one that got into the side of him, Joe.
Yeah, I think there was some contact. Leno also now off. Well, we've had a lot of, well, I'd call them minor incidents here at the start, but there's been a whole ton of them.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of little dinks and dunks here. None of the major incidents like we've seen before, but they are coming back around. We're right on board now with Liam Routsidas.
He's been a popular onboard cam there. He's been mighty close to Justin Sang, but Sang's not offering him any opportunities. Now that he's got that podium position, he wants to retain it. He knows it is tight with Peterson in this championship, so he can't give away too much. Already going to lose enough points that I think Peterson might be able to take the points lead as it sits right now. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say he just might, but some of these drivers in the back may have something to say about it. Justin Sang just trying to get his way forward. Jump back here to P20. This is Chris Brown as he works his way down. You can see the concertina that exists going down into that NGK chicane.
Chris, remember, started in third place, spun out, heading into Valvoline, just lost it on his own into that curve. So another driver with a lot of work to do, and looks like he's going to get one right here. That almost looked a bit polite from Dewey Kang, pulling over to let him by. Back into the middle of the pack. Someone poking their nose down in there. I think that is Charles Yao. Not able to make the pass on him. Braun gets another one. Fonseca, another driver that isn't really interested in having anything to do with the recovery driver. He just let him through. We come back to Stifel now here in the 003. That is the bright orange car of Gabrielle Albano just in front of him.
Indeed it is. Trying to put a little bit of pressure there on Albano. Albano runs a good line there through the first part of Valvoline, now out through Ford. Everybody a nice line here. That Stifel, though, looking pretty aggressive. He's a couple of tenths back, though. I think he's not going to be able to make the move into Dunlop. Indeed, he's just got to try to set this up. Tries to carry some more speed, but I think he went a little bit too late onto the brakes there. That's going to cost him maybe a half a tenth.
It sounds like Taylor has an update on Sinclair, who was involved in an incident. Taylor, what's up?
It looks like after a little bit of contact with a couple of cars, he is going to receive the black flag and has to come and serve that penalty. Joe Sinclair running inside the top 15, so a tough break for him as he's going to have to serve it here at this next time by.
Back to the bright blue number 05 of Liam Routzidis, who is still temptingly close to Justin Sang, but now he's got some pressure from behind. Kostanek is in there. Kostanek coming off a win last week for Event 4 back in California. He might be a little far back for a win here today, but you never know. He's only 4 seconds behind Leif Peterson, but Leif has looked pretty quick so far in these early laps.
Yeah, he really has, and this is what we've seen a lot of times in previous races, Joe, is that they just sort of bunch together a little bit, and if you try to attack too hard, it's going to cost you. But Peterson here holding a gap of about 1.2 or so seconds over those drivers behind in the form of Rafael Amorim. So Amorim just trying to close down the best that he can, but it looks like he's starting to slip away just a little bit.
Rachel, the margins in this group are going to be a lot smaller, and already we've been seeing mistakes. Do you feel like they're pushing a little too hard in these early laps?
I think it's a possibility, but this is the sort of race track where that can happen for you. Speaking of mistakes, the 258 machine, Chris Brown off again. His car has not been right since he had his spin early on, but it's the track partially too. It's a difficult track, surprisingly, even for a Tilkedrome, which is built more to a formula than the average McDonald's restaurant. It's a difficult place for these guys to drive, and it's a difficult place to really get the full grip on, especially with a car that isn't as high downforce as a Formula One vehicle that they're designed for here. Getting the maximum speed does mean running on the edge, and it's gonna cost them, I think, in some cases, but I think it's just more a factor that it's a less familiar track. It's not as common on the schedule.
No, certainly not. And once again, into the last chicane here with Sang leading Routzidis. We'll see if this McDonald's will offer up a rile with cheese to any of these drivers in the Eifel Mountains today. Coming off of Coca-Cola, Sang is starting to lose a little bit of ground now. Routzidis is within about a car length and a half. Does he try and push the issue? He's been following so close to him for a number of laps here at the start. He's going to show his nose, but nothing serious. He gets back in line.
Yeah, doesn't want to go too aggressive. Looks at a little bit of a narrower line there coming through the Howe hook, maybe trying to pressure, and again a narrower line there through the first part of the Mercedes arena. Just trying to poke his nose this way and that way, seeing if he can find any little areas of weakness in the armor of Justin Sang.
But Justin seems to be pretty steely here, the way he's been dealing with it so far. And in fact, as far as his season has been going, I believe, I'm trying to see how many times he's been on the podium. I think only twice, interestingly. So consistency does seem to be the strong suit of the number 10 car, because hasn't really had super phenomenal results. He's just been putting in goodish results, and that has been enough to put him to the top of the points.
Well, Joe, it's not exactly uncommon. Sometimes as a driver, you've got to think a little bit like Prost and just try to maximize those points. It was Keke Rosberg back in the 80s that was managed to win a Formula One World Championship with a single victory to his name. So, we watch here, better run there coming out of Warnsteiner for Justin Sang. But that draft starting to play into the hands of Liam Routzidis. Is he going to make a move into NGK? A little bit of a fade there from Sang. No attack from Routzidis.
Surprised we're not seeing him be a little bit more aggressive here on this to try and shake something out of the 10. but he's in the car and we're not, so he knows a little better of what is the right call at this moment. Back to Stiffel once again. Here sitting in ninth, a similar distance up to the bright orange 131. And in fact, he's going to get a tow down the pit straights. Will Albano try and defend, or is he going to leave the door open? He's leaving the door open currently. But Stiffel, he tries to step in very late. In fact, he does get to the inside. Doesn't make the apex, but he still gets the spot.
Tenacity proving out there for Joe Stiffel. A great move to be able to get by Albano. Sometimes that's just what it takes going into the Hound Hook. As I've said before, it's a tricky corner and so many lines you can take, but you could really get your elbows out there because this was redesigned by Herman Silka, and you can have plenty of room to run wide.
Back to Amorim, and what was a gap of about a second and a half, Lee Peterson has found disappeared now. It is to about 0.5 of a second between the pair of them. Amorim last couple laps 56.0, 56.4, Peterson 56.6, 56.5, consistently chipping away at that 913.
Yeah, just a 10th or 2 per lap, and it's a great run for Amorim to be able to do that. And rest assured, Leif Peterson knows that that is happening. And sometimes when you're driving like that and you know that the driver is faster, it makes you focus in on trying to push a little bit harder. There's a great adage from Jackie Stewart that at one point his team told him he was so far in the lead that he needed to back off and just let everything relax. Well, he did that, and they ended up going a second a lap faster because being relaxed and being calm, that is the fastest way to drive the car. You don't want to overdrive it.
These guys seem to really have that one down as we come back to Robert Rose, who's just behind Reinsberg. They've also got Craig just in front of him, our spotlighted driver here. This isn't the Nordschleife, so is Craig just as familiar? He's at least in the top 10 and in the top class of the PCA, so that's a pretty good sign that he knows what he's doing. Coming off of Coca-Cola, Reinsberg was very poor, and already Robert Rose is thinking about a move.
Yes, he is, and by the time that they get down past the starting line, he is going to be to the inside. He's got to be late on the brakes to try to get by Reisenberg. Reisenberg doesn't put up too much of a fight here. Looks for maybe a little bit of a crossover, but it's too little too late. Robert Rose up into 11th place.
Great move. Now, earlier we were watching our top 3, Peterson, Amorim, Sang, and here's Routsitis to make it 4 as well. But the interesting thing, Taylor, is, well, those top 3 are top 4 in the points, Amorim, Peterson, Sang. But we're missing the 4th of those top 4 here today, Christopher Pies. He's got an interesting story as to why he's not here.
Yeah, Christopher Pies, instead of racing in the virtual world, he is actually partaking in a 24-hour event at Sebring this weekend, actually. He's racing, of course, in a Porsche, as he's going to be having some fun there, so he's going to have a little fun. And I'm pretty sure we're going to, when he comes back for the next round next week, we're going to have to ask him how it was and how his results. But I'm pretty sure if you follow him on social media, as well as his race team, you'll be able to see how well he does this weekend at Sebring.
I'll have to get someone in the chat to tell us what his social media plug is so that we can get some attention over there and have everybody cheer him on into the chicane. Look at that Brumos Porsche starting to really hound Peterson at every corner. The 913 is dealing with it well. He's just soaking it up. But Raphael is looming larger and larger. It's down to 0.4 of a second now.
Yes, he is. We talked about it before that Leif Peterson, one of his strengths is his ability to just drive calm, cool, and collected. But we haven't really seen him under massive pressure at this point, Joe. He's normally the driver that just kind of puts that pressure on the guys behind. That looked like a little bit of a wide line there for Peterson, but he was able to gather it just right, carrying maximum momentum, using every inch of the track. Jumping back here, this is Gabrielle Albano. Remember, Joe Stiffel was able to get by him a couple laps ago, but Albano not letting him out of his sights.
And for Peterson, this is going to be a big rebound, not just in the fact that he's looking for that first win, but the last event last week was the first time he didn't finish on the podium this season. Now, he has also missed a race. He wasn't around for event 3, which really puts him under the gun because that's going to be his drop week. And if he has any truly poor races, then it will unfortunately have to be a score that counts.
Yes, it will, and that is the give and take with those drop weeks, is that you can use it if you have a bad race, but it is very, very tough if you have a nasty week there. We're right on board with Dylan Kosternak, though. We've been following that battle between Justin Sang and Liam Rositas, but that constant battle has allowed for the 190 to catch up behind, Joe.
Indeed. So Rositas is now going to have to be a chameleon with one eye forward, one eye backwards. And they come out of Warsteiner. It's a very good exit from Sang. He starts to gap Liam. I wonder if Liam's starting to look a little bit more in that mirror instead at that blue and white number 190 as we come back to Robert Rose in 11th. Down one position from where he began this race. He's been working on Dave Craig. We've checked in on this a couple times before, but still no swap for these two spots.
No, but remember, Rose was able to get that very good pass done on Rick Reisenberg going down the main straightaway and into the Haug Hook. Jumping back here with Rafael Amorim. This is actually the exact place that Rose was able to get that pass done. Amorim really close behind there under braking.
Close, but not close enough, unfortunately. Still keeping the pressure on. Now, Rachel down in the pits. We've discussed this at length already. Oh, as we got a battle on screen. Apologies, we'll get to Rachel in a second. But into turn one, Leno on the inside of Rava. Christian going to break deep and try to pinch him down and cover him off. And Christian successfully fending off Jean-Paul that time. So that will stay with Christian in 16th, Leno in 17th. But Rachel, we've talked at length about the pit strategy. If you're Amorim, is it worth trying for that undercut here today? Do you think he could find a gap that he can maybe try to get around Peterson that way?
I would actually think that would be a good call. Yeah, I'd like to see Rafael Amorim make the dive to pit road first. Get some clean air, and he can get some good lap times in, which actually might see him take that jump. He's really close right now, and it's much easier to jump in pit road than it is to try and jump somebody on the track, especially a track like this with such difficult passing. Yeah, pit road would be the best place to do it.
He's gotten mighty close now, though. Is he going to try it on the track? He's got a decent run coming out of Warstart. I don't think he's quite there. This is tight, DJ. Do you think he's brave enough?
And not looking like this time around, but if he can maybe try to manage this up right. Just a reminder, by the way, Leif Peterson, no stranger to being up at the top of the standings here. He was the Season 5 champion. So he knows what he's doing out on that track. Carries good speed there out of Coca-Cola. You saw just how he let that car drift up. Almost looked like it was understeering up out of the corner, but that just maximized his speed to be able to hold off Amorim here going down into the Haug Hook.
Another close moment for Rootsitas, but still just far enough away that he can't quite reach out and touch the car of Sang. And I think we have our first taker visiting Taylor down there. Robert Rose is coming towards his stall. Taylor, what's going on here?
Robert Rose making his way down pit road. This could be possibly his first pit stop of the race, as he will come down to get fuel and service needed on his number 443 Porsche. After working his way up through the field, Robert trying to see, after starting in 10th position, going to have to make some moves here as he finishes his pit stop at 12.1 in his box, and as he rejoins the race circuit at 36 all the way through. So a good little pit stop. We'll see if that's going to be able to help him progress and be able to improve his position as time goes on.
Back to our battle for the lead. Don't need to go to it, but Julian Velez got punted by Christian Rava into Haug Hook. Rava got spun around, lost a lot more positions than the 33. This position has stayed the same pretty much since the start, with Peterson on the pole leading away. Amorim trying to threaten him from that second place from the front row, but unsuccessfully able to elicit a mistake from the 913. Even into this final chicane, as close as he is, it's down to 0.2 of a second at times, and he can't seem to make Leif break a sweat.
No, he can't. Let's watch Leif's line here again through Coca-Cola. This is really where that defense came to fruition last time. Again, a near perfect line from Leif. Amorim, the gap growing back out to about 4.5 tenths of a second. Looks a little bit closer closer, but I still think it's too close to be able to actually make a move down into the Haug hook. Indeed, he's just going to stay in line, waiting for the better opportunity to present itself.
Will he see that opportunity, or is Peterson going to be able to hit his marks all race long? We're already 25 minutes left into today's race. They're coming out of the Mercedes arena once again. They've gapped Justin Sang behind them by roughly 4 seconds, so they've been running a pretty intense pace up at the front. Here we come back to Justin Sang, and I caught a little glance into the mirrors from the number 10. The California driver is having to play a little bit of defense. Looked slightly offline down in the Ford that time.
Yeah, just a little bit, but Sang's still able to keep him at a healthy arm's length, about 0.4 of a second as they break down into Dunlop. Looks like Sang's doing a pretty smart job there, diamonding off that corner, not really giving any room any which way.
Didn't see any sign of Justin's dog friend that we got to see from before. Ooh, and Gonzalez is now really getting up on that rear bumper. This could be a great chance if he could just get the run off of this right-hander, plunging downhill just a glance of the curb. Look at that, perfect marks, but same thing with Justin Sang. Didn't really put a foot wrong at all. Liam within a car length and a half, 0.2 back, and he brakes a little early, so he doesn't want it this time.
No, doesn't want to go for it there. And as I've said a couple of times, going down into the NGK chicane, you can get that move done if you're side-by-side going in there, but it's really a one-way street once you get into the middle of the chicane itself. That, though, looks like a pretty good run for Gonzalez coming out of Coca-Cola. Falls back a little bit, though. It's not closing as fast as I thought he would. Looks to the inside. No, that's just a little bit of a head fake there from the 05.
What's interesting, remember, they had Derwin Kosnak, who was very close behind just before. Well, he's dropped to about 2.2 seconds back, so he is unable to keep the pace like these two are. So we're getting just basically two pairs forming up at the front of the field to decide the steps on the podium and one more.
Yeah, exactly, Joe. That gap back to Kosnak is really, really expanded. It's up to about 2.3, 2.4 seconds, so they're really, really dropping him. A wider entry there coming into Ford for Liam Gonzalez. I think he's just starting to experiment here, trying to see if there's a way that he can find a little extra speed that he hasn't managed to get thus far.
I think it is going to take some experimentation to try and get something done the way that we've been witnessing these races unfold. Two drivers who appear to be just mildly faster that have been stuck since the beginning of this race. Sang up one spot, saw one of his rivals spin out of his way, open up the chance into the podium, and has since been dealing with Liam, wishing to take that away. But Liam's up from 6th to 4th here. Would like to make it cutting his starting position in half. He won't do it on this lap through. I almost wonder, is Liam maybe trying to save a bit of fuel here?
He may be. Rachel talked about it earlier, the benefit of trying to maybe jump on the pits. If he's going for an overcut, that may help him. Runs a little bit wide there on the exit of Coca-Cola, though.
Certainly doesn't help him in an attempt to try and overtake Sang, but he's still very tight to him. Doesn't even show his nose, though, so he's not going to try it that time.
He was lifting a hair early coming down into the Haug hook, Joe. It's not a massive clutch and coast necessarily, but he may be just trying to hold on to a little bit of a 1/10 of a gallon here, a little bit of a 1/10 of a gallon there. That may be his strategy.
But, I mean, it might be a smart one if he's finding it tough, trying to truly get a good opportunity to overtake. Might as well try and short pit, save a little bit of fuel so that you can just put a few tenths less in there and see if you can get the track position you need out of that. We continue to watch the 8 chase the 913. Amram with 2 wins so far this season. At Barber, And then when we headed off to round 3 as well, event 3, he took a victory there. The drivers finding themselves having harder and harder times trying to get those wins away, having to work extremely hard with races to perfection. And here we go. Amorim with a perfect exit. Oh, but he also lifts significantly. And we're also seeing the YouTube chat is also speculating that some of the drivers are, they think some of them are fuel saving here. So a little bit of a drop back from Amorim, maybe more than he would have liked, as we finally break away down off of the top 4 to Reinsberg in 11th.
Yeah, and this is Rick trying to close in on the back of Dave Craig right here. I don't suspect that there's a lot of fuel saving going on there, but he is just pushing as hard as he can. We look out the rear right now of Dave Craig's machine. Not taking a whole lot of curve there through the NGK chicane. He's just trying to run a nice, smooth, consistent race.
So back onto the front stretch now. Craig about 6 seconds behind Albano currently, who got passed by Stiffel. We saw that a little bit earlier in this race. He's going to have to do a lot of work to try and catch up to him and close that one down. Still have 22 of the 23 starters on the track, but it is only 20 of them on the lead lap right now. Joe Sinclair is the last of them. Rafa with his penalty, and I think Fonseca may have gotten one too. I'll have to double check on that. He may not have. May have just been suffered from an incident. So we come back to Rafael again, who gets close coming up into the Schumacher S. Can keep it close, maybe to try something into Michelin, or does he even want to do that? No, he's not all that close, so nothing happening this time into the left-hander.
Yeah, not going for it there. I can report, I've been riding on board with Liam Rositas here a little bit, just in terms of his fuel saving. There's a little bit of short shifting that the number 05 is doing from 4th to 5th gear as they go through, and he is lifting a little bit coming down into the MGK chicane and into the Hauk hook. Not a massive amount, but there you can see just a little bit of an early lift there. You can probably power on a little bit harder, so we may be into a bit of a strategy game here from the 05.
I think we're absolutely into a strategy game. I just looked at the clock, 17 minutes left, so we've only got maybe 5 more minutes the drivers could go max here. And I'm seeing 2 drivers that it look like they have taken their official stops here, DJ. So I think we are going to see a flood of cars in the pit lane. And speak of the devil, I see Styles in there now.
Ask and you shall receive, Joe, as there is Christopher Styles, a couple coming in behind him, Joe Stiffel, Gabrielle Albano. I'm also seeing Dave Craig come through. Rick Reisenberg, who was involved in that fight, he is staying out, so that'll promote him all the way up into 7th.
It looks like Craig going to be last among them to pit in, because I see Kang continuing on unless Charles Yao enters in. Just about 4 more cars electing to take a stop. Wonder if we could listen in on Amorim's onboard just to see if we can hear any lifting and coasting into some of these corners. Should have a good opportunity up here in the Michelin.
There you heard it a little bit, Joe, just hovering in 5th gear a little bit longer, letting off of the gas. Now let's stay here again. Let's jump back on board with him. He should have a good opportunity to save coming into NGK.
So just pulling up in the toe. Let's see if we get a lift. Yeah, I'd say so. I think he is fuel saving as hard as he can, and it's going to pay off because here comes Peterson in before Amorim does. Will this be the overcut now that he has clean air? Can he put his foot down? No more saving for the number 8 machine.
Not at all. The only question is if he needs to continue to hit that fuel number to get this going. But we jump back here with Justin Sang, who's been promoted up into P2. Liam Rositas starting to take a look. A lift there from Rositas as well.
So both of them continuing on. 15 minutes now left on the clock, but Peterson's the only one this lap. Oh, no, I take that back. I spoke too soon. Schum is in. Bandiapier is in. Villeneuve looks like Braun is also going to join.
All right, so some more of those mid-packers coming in. Leif Peterson opting to go early. Now, that may be precipitated by he saw a little gap in the field that he could come out in some clean air. Continue to follow Justin Sang here as he keeps pushing around. Can report, by the way, that it sounds like Rafael Amorim is pushing pretty hard there up front. Justin Sang as well. Here's Derwin Kostanak, that gap coming back down again.
It was up to 2.2 seconds. It now is at 9/10. So, looks like Derwin putting his foot down, wanting to be a little bit closer for the pit stops. Could maybe get the jump if he is that tiny bit more efficient in and out, getting his fuel stop done. The blue, white, and, well, darker blue car coming down towards Michelin. Just ahead of him, I'm sure he's been wishing that Routsitis would attack, because that would certainly help him close. If those two could cost each other some time. Is Amorim going to pit this time is the big question. Will he respond, or can he go another lap?
We'll have to see. We ride on board right now with Dewey Kang, who's a bit out of sequence, but here it is. He's coming in. Amorim coming in.
This could be important in that race for the lead. Sang is in. Routsitis follows. Kostanak is too. This is the end of the pit window.
Yeah, I think that's right. The next one we're going to have to check on is Rick Reisenberg with Leif Peterson. This is the all-important one to be able to do this right now. Reisenberg right now, Peterson right now we ride on board with.
So he is now heading into the chicane. Amorim is just getting to his pit stop. We're looking at 10 to 12 seconds a stop for most drivers. 13 if they go a little bit long. Amorim already taking service. Peterson out of Coca-Cola. Amorim 12 seconds, 12 and a half seconds. Peterson at the exact same time in his pit stop. He's coming down now. Amorim trying to get the speed up. It's going to be incredibly tight. He does have him.
He's got him, Joe. That extra lap and that extra lap to be able to push, able to get a big gap there, as well as Justin Sang in the back. I'm not even sure how he did it. Oh, he had a 3-second faster stop than Liam Routsitis. Justin Sang now able to breathe a little sigh of relief.
And it sounds like that wasn't the only problem with Liam. Taylor, you were at the entry to the pit lane. What happened?
Well, Liam was getting a little bit too tail happy with his Porsche, almost ran it into the arm coat barrier on pit entrance. Thankfully, though, was able to not have any contact and was able to make his pit stop complete.
Which allows Kostanak to start pressurizing him. So maybe not a podium on the cards for Routsitis, because he's 4 seconds behind Justin Sang. He's on his lonesome now, 3 seconds up to our leaders, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind that one. May not be a win, but it'll be yet another podium to his name. Amorim, oh my goodness, is Amorim stretching away? Amorim's got it up to 1.1 second now.
Yes, he does, Joe, and that's a little bit surprising. I would have expected that to be the other way around, as Amorim's tires will have cooled slightly while sitting in the pits.
I wonder if he just simply had extra pace in his pocket, too. Was he playing possum there behind the 913, waiting for the right moment? And now that he's done and he can unleash his full pace, is this good night?
It very well could be, and now we see we had talked about the pace of Derwin Kostanak as he was trying to close in behind on that battle between Justin Sang and Liam Routsitis, but now that Routsitis has dropped off the back of Justin Sang, Kostanak all over the back of that 05.
That's now our best battle up at the front, and unfortunately a mistake from Liam opens the door. Kostanak tries to step through. He manages to get side by side. He's got a nose ahead and the desired line down to the apex, but some drivers have fought back previously, holding the long way around. Not so today for the 05. That is P4 for Kostanak.
A good move there, taking advantage of when he saw a problem. Liam's going to try to fight him back around here, taking a wider entry into the corner, but not going to pay off. It looks like Kostanak has that position for now.
And let's not forget, it's time to bring you the Midway Race Report, brought to you by Porsche. Porsche is more than a sports car. It's a way of life for all of us, and we appreciate their support of PCA Sim Racing as the Pro Class sponsor. With a recent sub-7-minute lap at the Nürburgring in the GT3 and the arrival of the all-new 992 GT3 Cup car to the U.S., Porsche's dedication to motorsports is stronger than ever. Find more about Porsche at Porsche.com. Rachel?
Thank you very much. Well, first up tonight, we have Rafael Amaro from the Peach State region in that number 8 machine. Started second, running the first day, and definitely putting on an amazing show here. This is the Zone 3 driver. Second place tonight, Leif Peterson chasing him down. The Texas driver from that Maverick region of Zone 5, the 913. He started on the pole, and he wants it back. Third place tonight, Justin Sang. We got a camera on board for him there. The Golden Gate region driver of Zone 7 started fourth. He's up 1 place tonight and pushing hard. Dylan Kosnak from the Wild Rose region, which is an amazing region name, in the 190 there. Zone 14 is up 2 places from... Actually, no, he's up 3 places. Liam Rudzikas is in 5th place. 05, the Upper Canada region of Zone 1, is up from, I believe, the 6th place right now, so he's a gain of 1. 6th place tonight will be Jordan Dyer, the Shansan region driver from Zone 10. In that 3 car is up from 9th place so far, gain of 3. 7th place tonight is going to be Christopher Stiles, as I think I just saw Animu happening on the previous car. Upper Canada region Zone 1 driver in that 13 machine. Stiles is up from 13th place, so gain of 6. 8th place is Joe Stiffel. And I always keep thinking about Bandcamp whenever I see that name for some reason. The Chicago region driver of Zone 13 in the 003 is doing his best right now to gain, up from 15th. So that is a gain of 7. And let's hope there's no super glue involved. 9th place is Gabrielle Albano, the Gold Coast region driver from Zone 12 in the 131. Up from 12th to 9th, gains of 3 for him tonight. 10th place is going to be Robert Rose. He started 10th. He's running 10th. The Shenandoah region driver is hoping those country jet roads will take him home. 11th place tonight is Dave Craig, the Keystone region driver in that 996 from zone number 2. Is up from 14th, gain of 3. Taylor?
As we move on to the 12th position, we'll find Chris Braun, who is trying to hunt down Dave Craig, the Northeast region driver in a beautiful Martini livery paint scheme. As he is working his way through, started in 3rd, though needs to have a little bit better recovery as he's on board with VR head. A nice little rig setup he has going on for him as the Northeast driver works his way through. 13th is Rick Reisenberg, who is behind these two as well. We see him now, the Diablo region driver, in number 21 Porsche, trying to chase him down. They started in 16th, so 3 spots have been gained for him. 14th, who started 8th position, is now running 14th. The Mardi Gras region's very own Jean-Paul Leno in that number 2, as he's working his way through. Not the best of races so far for him, as he's lost multiple positions, at least 6, and hoping to see if he can gain a few before the end of the race. 15th is Jacob Schoen from the Carolinas region in car 56. Wolfpack Motorsports car, seeing if he can work his way through and maybe have a shot at collecting a top 10 finish. Julian Velez in the number 33 sits in 16th position. The Northern New Jersey driver started in 19th, so a 3-spot gain for him today. So a good strong run for him as we're late in the going. In 17th is Shabalo Benjopaje from the Metropolitan New York region, who has been trying to chase him down. He's going to take a peek to the outside as they work their way through the arena section. He'll dive it to the inside and pick up the spot. 18th in the White Tiger Porsche, it is Dewey Kang. Started 22nd and now has worked his way up to that 18th spot. The Metropolitan New York region driver looking to see if he can gain a few more. 19th is Charles Yao from the Finger Lakes region in a very vibrant number 17 Porsche as he works his way through, started in 23rd. Rounding out your top 20 in the last car on the lead lap, he suffered a penalty early on. Joe Sinclair is trying to see if he can gain up a few positions. The Upper Canada region driver not having the best start after, though, starting in 18th. Alberto Fonseca is now the first car one lap down, running in the 21st position. The Pacific Northwest driver looking to see if he can at least find a way to get back on the lead lap, but it's going to be a tall and tough order with about 5 minutes to go. The Jakester Racing number 88 Porsche in 22nd is Christian Rava from the Suncoast, Florida region. Working his way through, he is 2 laps down from your race leader. Rodney Campbell is in 23rd out of tonight's race.
This concludes tonight's Midway Race Report, brought to you by Porsche. Big thank you to Porsche for sponsoring the series, and thanks to Rachel and Taylor for taking us through the order. No big developments this time, other than the fact that Amram has checked out. He is gone. It's 3.2 seconds from the leader to P2, so there definitely was plenty waiting in reserve for Rafael. Instead, we've come a little bit farther back into the pack. This is the Jägermeister car of Albano chasing Stiffel.
Indeed it is, and this battle has been really pretty fierce since the end of the pit stop cycle. There you see some lap traffic getting out of the way as we watch there. Albano just trying to close in as they go down into the Dunlop hairpin there. A little bit off the apex there for Gabrielle, and that's going to cost him a couple of tenths.
I just realized, I was looking through the timesheets, I think Kostanek has been gaining on Sang. It's down to about 8 seconds. Wasn't that at 3 seconds before?
He's actually got it down even more, Joe. Kostanek's been able to get that gap down to about 9/10 of a second, 7/10 of a second as they exit the NGK chicane. So we may have a little battle here shaping up for the last step on the podium.
Pressure's on for Justin. He was able to hold off Routsitas before, and Liam couldn't manage to shake him. Can Derwin do what Liam could not? He's only got about 3 minutes to do it, so we're looking. Let's see, where is our leader? He's still not that far up the road from these trio. So we've got 2 laps left, it looks like.
Yeah, just about. Rafael really has checked out here. He's got about a 3.84 second advantage over his early rival of Leif Peterson, who right on board right now with Liam Routsitas. Remember, Kostanek was able to get around him early on, but Liam's held on to this position quite well.
Ooh, and Rose and Braun are having a little battle right now. This is for 10th place with Braun around the outside, Rose to the inside. He gets pinched down the shorter distance, not working out here today. Tries to get it in there once again through the second part of the Mercedes arena, and that is not going to do it. Braun is going to retain 10th.
He's going to hold on to it, but Braun's going to have a little bit of a disadvantage. If you look at that clam we're on right now, he's got a little bit of rear wing damage, Joe, to the left side of that wing, so that'll definitely hurt him down the straights.
It seems how important it is to be quick on some of these medium speed corners. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one for him to deal with. Car probably not handling quite perfectly out there. Watching to see our leader coming across the line soon, which, and yes, I can confirm this will be the white flag next time through as we watch from Liam in the 05. Still not close enough this time to Kostanek to try and get that spot back, but Kostanek has arrived. It is 0.2 of a second, but he's got 1 lap to make it stick.
Oh, very good run there for Kostanek coming out of Coca-Cola. Sang tried to check him up a little bit, and I think it may have worked, but Kostanek now has that gap under 0.2 of a second. He's going to have enough of a pull to try to make a move into the Hal Hook. Here he goes. That is Sang going defensive.
Did he go too deep, though? It looks like he went a little bit too deep. Cutting back underneath. Kostanek is through, but he's on the wrong side of the track. It now swings into the Mercedes arena. They're going to bang doors, and he catches the car, but Justin Sang loses the spot.
He does indeed. Sang Hill tries to fight back on it, and he's going to keep nice and close. I don't think this battle is anywhere near done. We ride on board right here with Liam Routsitas, who's hoping to pick up some of the pieces. Bad run there for Sang coming out of Mercedes Arena. Is he going to have a look going down? No, not there.
Thought about it, but knew he had to keep hold of the car. We have to remember that we saw one of our drivers spin early on trying to go into that corner at the start of one of these races tonight. Just way too sketchy going offline into there. But Sang, after being on the podium position early in this race, is suddenly discovering that it has slipped through his fingers, and he doesn't seem to have the speed to keep up with Kostanak.
No, it looks like Derwin was just able to get that power down exactly where it could. Now he's got to try to set himself up here through Michelin and Warsteiner curves. A little bit of a wide run there for Kostanak, but I don't think that's going to cost him too much.
Oh, this is going to have to take something mighty to make it stick. But we're going to jump away to our leader, Rafael Amorim, in the 8 car. Played this to perfection. Pit stop strategy gave him the lead, and once he had that, there was no stopping him. Rafael Amorim will take his 3rd win of the season as he wins here in Germany. Leif Peterson still looking for that victory in the series in P2, and Kostanak will take 3rd as Sang barely holds back Routsitas for 4th.
And that was closer than it looked, Joe. There was a little bit of bumping and rubbing coming through Coca-Cola. I believe that Routsitas got up behind Kostanak there and definitely put a little bit of pain on him. But here comes Albano. Is he going to be able to have a move? Looks like he's a little bit too far back to get anything on Stifel.
Nope, he settles for 9th place, unfortunately. Behind them, tight fight for 12th, Craig leading Reinsberg. Villeneuve, but Craig's got it on lock, and that will be P12 for him, as they all cross within nearly a second of one another. And that's honestly the last of our battles. Still had 20 cars that will be finishing on the lead lap. But let's take a look at our finishing order with Rafael Amorim, who took the win here today, as Leif Peterson was P2 and Kostanak finished in 3rd. Then it's Justin Sang in P4, followed by Liam Routsitas in 5th position. Those 5 all basically in fights all race long. Dyer was in P6. Christopher Stiles climbed from 13th to 7th, and Stifel from 15th to 8th. And it's Albano finishing 9th, and Braun, with his spin early, has to settle for P10 on his recovery.
David Craig was up 2 positions to claim, Robert Rose was down 1 position to claim 11th, followed by David Craig, who was up 2 positions to claim 12th. Rick Reisenberg up 3, with Jean-Paul Leno behind him and Jacob Schum in 15th. Behind him, Bandiopre was in 16th, followed by Julian Velez, with Dewey Kang, Charles Yao, and Joe Sinclair rounding out your top 20.
And the last on the lead lap, Fonseca was 21st, a lap down. Rava 2 laps down, 22nd, and Rodney Campbell, our only DNF here in the pro class race. We have our winner ready to talk to us, Rafael Amorim. Let's see what he thinks of this race, because I have to admit, Rafael, we're going to have to start calling you Lucy, because that was cruel. You held the football there for Leaf so long and then pulled it away at the pit stops and then laughed your way to the finish.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's all strategy. Leaf is super fast, and I knew that if I tried to pass him, we would both lose a ton of time. So it's better just to hang with him and try to open a gap to the cars behind us. And then I figured, let me save some fuel and see if I can get a jump on him during the pits. Because obviously I could find him. We're both a similar pace, and there's a risk that we might both end up somewhere out of the race. So that was kind of the best strategy for today with the pit stops.
Well, that strategy worked out perfect. You called that one with such precision. At what point did you know that you were going to try and start saving that fuel? Was that from lap 1 essentially, or was it a couple laps in?
A few laps in. Lap 1 was sort of rough. I've lost a lot of time kind of badly for P2, and Leaf opened almost like a 2-second gap. So I wasn't sure if I was going to have the pace to catch him, and the draft helped me get up to him. And then once I was in his draft, it was sort of easier to save fuel because the draft was just pulling me. And at that point in time, I just knew the best strategy was to try and save fuel. And I also didn't want to, he's on the championship run. I'm probably out of contention given that I'm going to lose another race. And I figured I didn't want to ruin his chances as well. And if my strategy works, great. If it doesn't work, P2 is pretty good.
That's a bit of a shame that you won't be able to compete, considering that's now half the wins so far of the races that we've run. Will you be around for VIR? And if so, what's your take on that track?
Oh yeah, I'll be around. I love VIR. It's so challenging and so much fun. That's one of my favorite tracks, and I hope to do well. It's a challenging track. It's difficult to be consistent there, but it's so rewarding when you get it right. So I'm definitely looking forward to this one.
Speaking of rewards, is there anybody you want to give a big thank you to for today's victory?
Well, as always, to the steering committee and everyone that makes this happen, to you guys at Podium, all to our drivers that make this a lot of fun every Friday. And last, as always, to my wife. She's the one that supports me through this and kind of tolerates me.
And that was your victor today, Rafael Amorim. In the meantime, DJ has caught up with second place finisher Leif Peterson.
I have indeed. And Leif, a close battle there for you. You lost out in the pit stops, but talk me through, first off, that defense of Rafael in the first stages of the race.
Yeah, Rob and I have been practicing a lot this week, and we're about on the same pace. So, in practice, I jumped him in the pits. Whoever gets behind sort of has the advantage. So, I knew he wouldn't challenge me just so we could run away, from the pack, and he would jump me in the pits, and he had the pace to do it. So, it was sort of a not planned, but sort of understood that that's the way we'd work it.
Well, we heard Roth talk a little bit about fuel saving and how he was doing that behind you. Did that thought ever enter your mind out on track?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I knew if I tried to let him by, he probably wouldn't take it.
Well, as we look to VIR next week, can we expect to see you up at the top?
I hope so. I love VIR. I love the roller coasters, the British tracks like that. Hope I do well. I'll enjoy it either way.
Well, we'll be watching for you out there for sure, Leif. Anybody you'd like to thank for this here today?
Yeah, obviously Doug, Jim, all the guys at PCA, all the instructors who put in the time and effort to help the community build it up. They put in a lot of their own time on this. So really appreciate it. Shout out to my real life racing team, Racer Motors, and my girlfriend Renata, who will only watch this part of the race.
Well, I think it's a good part to watch, Leif. Thank you so much. That was your second place finisher here today, Leif Peterson. And now we turn over to Derwin Kosternak, who is catching up right now with Taylor. But before we do, we just want to mention really quickly, we've had a quick change in the order as Liam and Justin both got black flagged on the last lap there. And as a result of the penalty, they will be scored down in 13th and 14th. But Taylor, you've caught up with the third place finisher.
We certainly have. Derwin Kosternak coming home in third position. Derwin, a strong performance for you here tonight. Explain to our listeners the interesting tight battles that you had to face and overcome in these closing few laps.
Well, I got to say, I wasn't expecting to get on the podium. After starting a disappointing 7th on the grid, I got myself into 5th pretty quickly, and then it was just trying to keep up with Justin and Liam, who were just fighting all race long. But I started to catch them again, even after a slowdown on lap 11 before the pit stop. And then coming out, maybe their tires were gone from fighting so hard all race, but I was catching up, and then caught Liam, first of all, him making a bit of a mistake coming out of the final turn. And then on the last lap, I got a good run on Justin going down to turn 1 and kind of faked going to the inside and went outside instead. So I had a better line coming out of turn 1 and was able to stay ahead of him. So that's how it happened. But I really wasn't expecting to get that far.
Well, with now this little bit of momentum on your side, we head to VIR. Your thoughts on that tricky and amazing circuit that we're going to next week?
I'm looking forward to it. I've done a couple of special events there. What was it called now? It was this long, like 4-hour race at VIR, and you just do it by yourself. And so I've done several laps there. I'm looking forward to trying it out in this car.
Well, before we let you go, Derwin, anyone you would like to say thank you to?
Yeah, I got a lot of friends and family who I've been sending the broadcast links to, and they've been keeping in touch and, weighing in on it, but one of them in particular is definitely my biggest fan. So shout out to Mike for being my biggest fan. He watched live tonight. Thanks, Mike.
And of course, we have to say thank you as well, Mike, as we now turn it back over to Joe, as Derwin Kozenek is your final finisher in the podium.
What a fascinating race here for the pro class today. They certainly look like pros out there, I have to say. But as we close up, we have a few things to remind you of because we want you to tune in Sunday for the season finale for PCA Team Racing at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then next Thursday, the PCA entry class airs at 9 p.m. This is all, of course, here on Podium Esports. However, we'll see you next time at the VIR course for the Challenge and Sport classes. It all kicks off at 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, November 3rd, live here on Podium Esports. Thank you so much to our title sponsor, Hagerty, as well as the series sponsors, Michelin and Porsche. A big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, DJ, Taylor, Rachel, Ryan, Eric, and Dougie. Also, none of this would be possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports: James Pike, Gary Sexton, Cisco Scaramuza, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing presented by Hagerty. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.